Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. First tonight, a horror crash on the Bass Highway at Latrobe has ended in tragedy. A 68-year-old man has died while a mother and her baby managed to escape without serious injury.
Another life lost on our roads. A man in his 60s killed at the scene of a 2-vehicle crash on the Bass Highway at Latrobe.
Initial indications are that it's been a head-on collision between 2 sedans and that one vehicle has most likely crossed to the wrong side of the road.
A 23-year-old woman and her 10-month-old baby in the second vehicle were transported to the Mersey Hospital for precautionary treatment, while the Westpac rescue helicopter was also dispatched to the scene. A section of the highway was closed for 3.5 hours. Motorists experiencing significant delays with traffic diverted at the Ports Rail roundabout and Moriarty Road.
That accident will be fully investigated by our crash investigation services and a report will be provided for the coroner.
This year's road toll is already at 45 in October, a number far exceeding last year's total of 35.
Our target is 0, always, and my heart goes out to all the families and loved ones and friends.
Wet weather will also be considered as a contributing factor.
That will form part of our investigation. At the time there was some significant rain around.
It's just one of 4 crashes in 4 hours that unfolded today across the state, prompting the Premier to issue this message.
Drive to the conditions, of course, obey the speed limit. Over is over.
But the call for vigilance on our roads isn't being heeded by motorists, with this driver caught disobeying the road rules a short time later. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Residents in Tasmania's north and northwest are on edge yet again, with more rain expected to pass across the state. A low-pressure system is developing into next week, impacting the many communities still in recovery mode from last week's flooding.
A precursor of what to expect in the coming days. Numerous flood advice warnings issued by the State Emergency Service, urging Tasmanians to prepare now or to monitor conditions.
Here we are again, concerned, but importantly, we must remain vigilant.
The warnings only several days after major flooding wreaked havoc in the region. Many of the same towns near the Meander, Macquarie and Mersey rivers, yet again under flood watch.
We know that we have more rain on the way, and then as that rain works its way through the catchments, potentially more flooding.
Well, the farmers that I've spoken to, small businesses, residents, they're already anxious and exhausted from really what happened 7 days ago.
The Bureau of Meteorology expecting Monday and Tuesday to be the wettest days.
We want you to please stick with us. This event is not over. We all need to be vigilant so we can get through this event safely and get out through the other side.
Vital infrastructure across the state still being repaired or still to be fixed, tested once again. This bridge at Lungana near Leaving Canyon, destroyed last week, remains closed. Road Tas crews still working to get another lane of the Cam River Bridge near Burnie reopened.
People are working so very, very hard around the clock to ensure that we get that bridge open safely as soon as possible.
Residents can keep up to date with the latest warnings by visiting the Tas Alerts website. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Turning to some developing news now, where emergency services are currently on the scene of a fire which has engulfed parts of Amoona School. Our reporter Brianna Boylan is on the scene at Bowen Road Primary School and joins us now. Brianna, what can you tell us?
Louise, Tasmania's fire service responded to a call at around 4 p.m. this afternoon to find Bowen Primary School up in flames. 4 crews entering the building with breathing apparatus spent around an hour getting the inferno under control. It was an emotional scene as the school's principal and several teachers shared hugs and tears over the destruction of the recently renovated, now blackened building.
substantial damage to the structure. At least 2 classrooms have been completely gutted. And there'll be smoke and heat damage to the northern and southern part of the building.
Tasmania Police will stay here overnight. We'll maintain what we call a fire watch. The reason why we'll do that is so that we can protect the integrity of the evidence that is here, and we can ensure that nobody else comes back and tries to set fire to the premises that are going to destroy evidence.
And Lou Emergency Services also say they're thankful no one was harmed in the fire as investigations continue into the cause of the inferno.
All right, thanks for that, Brianna Boylan. Labor is calling for more to be done to ensure Tasmania's public transport system is safe for passengers. The party says new data shows there have been 396 at-fault crashes involving buses this year. There have also been nearly 300 antisocial behaviour incidents in the same period, with more than 100 drivers quitting.
This is not rocket science. Make the workplace a valuable place where people want to come to work, where they want to stay.
Frankly, Tasmanians deserve better than a minority of people disrupting bus drivers.
The government also says it will be cracking down on those breaking the law. Meanwhile, commuters are getting stuck in the rain thanks to a major flaw in the government's $6 million park and ride project at Huntingfield. Slanted roofs and gaps in the bus shelters exposing travellers to the harsh weather events.
If the rain falls straight, then you're fine. But we know in Tassie there's a bit of wind, so the wind brings the elements in.
Labor says it's another factor discouraging the public from using Metro Tasmania's bus service. Dozens have braved the elements on the Huon River today in the latest round of protests against Tasmania's fish farming industry. Tassals Pens near Cygnet their latest target, with community members calling for the soon-to-be foreign-owned company to change how they operate.
A continued campaign against one of the state's biggest industries. The grey skies failing to dampen the spirits of these anti-fish farm activists, taking to the water once again.
We know the future is every country has growing community support to get the farms out of the waters.
A flotilla of fish farm protesters going out on the Huon River near Cygnet. Their target, Tassals 2 licences at Brazabon Point.
The community wants these leases gone. They have been fighting industry and lobbying government for over 30 years now to have them gone, and it is time.
On land, 25 protesters don masks in a memorial to the amount of seals lost to fish farming each year. Prominent farmer Matthew Evans amongst the crowd. The Fat Pig Farm founder calling for transparency from the state government.
Fish farming in Tasmania has moved on and relied on nature to clean up its mess, and we've left damage in its wake.
There is strict independence when it comes to environmental regulation, and we have a world-class industry here.
Environmentalists say there are healthier ways for the industry to operate, urging them to move onshore and out of local estuaries and rivers.
The way that it operates was developed for Norway in very, very cold waters, very, very deep waters and very, very fast-flowing waters. These are not the same conditions that we have here in Tasmania.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's Persian community has come together to show its support for the protests currently taking place across Iran, with dozens gathering on Hobart's Parliament lawns today. They're calling for the Islamic regime to change following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini at the hands of the country's notorious morality police last month.
We decided to support their voice and support them and be their voice because the government shut down the internet.
Activists estimate around 220 people have been killed in Iran because of the protests. Tonight marks a new era for the Spirit of Tasmania as it sails into its new home in Geelong for the first time. Tom Johnson is in Devonport about to make the trip across. Good evening, Tom. What's in store at the other end?
Well, Louise, there's a big celebration planned for tomorrow morning in Geelong to mark the first of what will be many sailings into the new Spirit of Tasmania Quay, formerly known as Corio Quay. It's a $135 million precinct, plenty of parking, a new passenger terminal, and it is, of course, a new gateway for Tasmanians heading to the mainland. So there's plenty of excitement on board tonight about this new chapter, and also a hint of history as well. Over in Melbourne, the other Spirit is about to make its last voyage out of Station Pier, heading for Devonport, a trip it has made countless times up until now. So certainly in a football contest this year, Geelong has been the premier destination. No doubt the Spirit of Tasmania hopes it is also a premier destination for travellers as well. Louise?
It's certainly looking that way. Thank you for that, Tom. Safe travels tonight. Meanwhile, two huge Australian festivals are joining forces, bringing some of the nation's best wine and cheese down to Tasmania. The Mould Cheese Festival and Pinot Palooza making their debut in Hobart with a delectable three-day event.
Curd nerds and wine connoisseurs pouring into Hobart's goods shed for the ultimate pairing.
Why bring one event when we can bring two? Mould Cheese Festival is our flagship cheese event, Pinot Palooza is our flagship Pinot event.
Local producers setting up shop.
We've got my rosé, which is made from Pinot Meunier, and my Pinot.
As well as interstate suppliers jetting in for the occasion.
David Brown, the owner of Millwall, is a pioneer of Australian cheese. He made one of the first blue cheeses in Australia. So 40 years of love has gone into making our blue cheese recipe, and so that's why they're really liking it.
We're only milking 26 cows, so we are really small scale. And the feedback so far has been really positive. We're getting lots of lovely comments, lots of people out excited to taste some artisan cheese.
The event is being hailed a huge success, with more than 500 walking through the doors on day one and around 1,000 again today.
There was a coffee flavoured cheese, that was great.
We're just sampling all of the Pinot today, and we've travelled especially from the peninsula over to Tassie.
But it's not about breaking records.
For us, it's all about not having too many people. We want to make sure you can come down, speak to the makers themselves, speak to the wine producers, and really get to know them and buy direct.
Meeting the producers and where they're based and how they make it, it's really interesting.
Organisers now planning for years to come.
This may be the first time, it certainly won't be the last.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Jack Jumpers Revival faces a tough test tonight when they host competition powerhouse Perth Wildcats in less than 2 hours' time. Both come into this match having played Melbourne United last round. Tasmania defeated them 74-64 on Sunday to secure their third win in a row. The Wildcats, meanwhile, will be looking to bounce back after a narrow loss to United. Tip-off is at 8 o'clock at MyState Bank Arena. Sri Lanka are looking to get their T20 World Cup campaign back on track in Hobart beginning tomorrow. The 2014 champions beat the Netherlands on Thursday to squeeze through to the next stage after a humiliating defeat to Namibia earlier in the week. Facing in-form Ireland tomorrow, they're not taking their opponents lightly.
World Cup is always a big tournament, and it's always, that when the pressure is there, anything can happen.
Meanwhile, Zimbabwe beat Scotland last night to book its spot in the Super 12 stage. Captain Craig Irvine and the in-form Sanidka Raza both put on a show as they chased down the target of 133 with 9 balls to spare.
Good evening, everyone. Burnie saw the state's top today of 21 degrees, Launceston 20 and 18 in Hobart and Devonport. Across the state, Flinders Island and Wynyard also saw the top of 21, Friendly Beaches 19, 18 in St Helens and Grove, Strahan 15 and 13 in Lyowini. Now, a deep layer of cloud can be seen covering the state today. And further out, convective cloud with thunderstorms can be seen over much of the eastern and southern states. Cloud associated with the front is over the Bight, with cold, unstable air following to the south. Tomorrow, a high will strengthen to the southwest of Tasmania as the trough and cold front move across the Tasman Sea. Multiple low-pressure troughs linger over the mainland. South to southeasterly winds tomorrow 20 to 30 knots, reaching up to 35 knots about Banks Strait in the evening. And with this said, there is a gale warning for Banks Strait and Franklin Sound and a strong wind warning from Southeast Cape to St Helens Point. Moderate flood warnings are in place for the Macquarie and South Esk rivers, minor flood warnings for the Meander, Mersey and North Esk, and a flood watch for the northwest, northeast, north, Derwent and Coal catchments. Showers and 13 in Hobart and Ouse tomorrow, 14 in Richmond. Launceston and Devonport both 15, a shower or 2 and 13 in Deloraine. 14 showers in Burnie tomorrow, Strawn and Curry both 16. And in the east, 15 in St Helens, Swansea 13 and partly cloudy and 17 in Whitemark. And the UV tomorrow is high across the state with sunrise expected at 6:10 a.m. On Monday, showers developing about the east, southeast and central areas. Showers increasing to rain about the north and east on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, showers statewide with winds shifting southwesterly. 23 in Perth tomorrow, a shower or 2 in Melbourne and Adelaide, Sydney 23, heavy falls in Brisbane and 35 degrees in Darwin. And currently Hobart 13 and cloudy, and Launceston and Devonport both cloudy and 17 degrees also. And that's all in weather tonight, Lou.
And that's all your news for now. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll leave you with some vision of last night's fireworks action, wrapping up this year's Royal Hobart Show. Have a lovely evening. Good night.